welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming to my watch party. This is I actually haven't really watched it much since it came out because it's a little terrifying to see yourself on the TEDx stage. Like I've seen myself speak a million times, like, and I've seen video, and I'm like, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. And then somehow seeing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, my hair's bad, my shirt's bad. Like you get all kind of bananas for all these things that don't matter at all, and so you get caught up in it. So it'll be interesting for me to see it again because I haven't seen it in quite some time. So welcome to you all, and just by a show of hands, can you show me who's actually watched the talk already? So some people have and some people haven't yet. So okay, all right, great. So some have. So this will be new for some of you, and a refresher for some of the rest of you. And as you'll hear in the talk, repetition's key. It's so key. So that's part of the talk. So is there anything you want me to tell you before we watch it, or should we dive right in and watch it? Do you want to hear anything? Renee, go ahead, just unmute, just talk.
I want to make sure my volume's on. So I'm a big follower of you, Julia, and also Mel Robbins, who's a big motivational speaker. And I've been listening to her for the last 2 weeks talking about what she calls going bigger. And so I
Okay.
have a question to you. Like you and I talked, and you said, oh my God, it was the scariest thing I ever did, putting myself out there so publicly. And I so get what you said. And I'm wondering, what motivated you to do this and get up on TED Talk?
Uh,
And is there anyone who influenced you? And then you can get into the show. I'm just really curious as a fellow colleague because I need that push myself.
oh, well, what motivated me is I got asked. And
Okay,
I
cool.
was asked, I was approached and asked to give this TEDx talk, and I was like, "Oh, sure, I'll do it." But then when trying to figure out what to talk about, it was so difficult. It was so difficult. At first, I was supposed to do this talk last year, so in the fall of 2024 originally. And then my amazing husband got quite sick, and so that got postponed. They were happy to let me come back again later, and they understood. They were really wonderful at TEDx. Um,
Awesome.
but it was really, I had started with the theme that they had this theme called Hope and Democracy was their theme. And so my talk started out being a little bit about how education can kind of level the playing field and bring democracy to everyone and fairness to everybody, justice for all. And then that kind of fell away because that theme fell away. And when I started working with a coach, when you're at TEDx, they actually have a coach that they assign to everybody. So everybody gets a coach to help you with your TEDx talk. And I was speaking with the coach, and you give this, they give you like an AI, so you can give your speech to the AI, and the AI critiques you, and then you give your speak, and then you let the coach watch it, and then you do it with the coach. And I've just been critiqued so much. It's a
Mhm.
little over the top. I was really, and actually, that's my next TED talk is going to be about positivity, I think, because the critique heavy was a little overwhelming for this TED talk.
Thank you
So
for sharing that. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's it kind of came about just because I was asked. And my motivation was to try to do something that would help,
Hmm.
try to talk about something that would help. And it was hard to boil that down to 10 minutes and something that was useful. I hope it came out okay. It was really hard. And I just want to extra thank my husband, Adam, for listening to this talk about 7,000 times. I think he could give it. He's really heard it. So, um,
Great.
does that answer your question, Renee? Are you
Oh,
good?
it's great. Yes, because I think you have an opportunity to motivate all of us to take the step that Mel Robbins calls go bigger. And while it's really scary and gets you out of your comfort zone, after you
Yeah.
do it, you generally say, oh, I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, I am glad, and I was terrified. And I was
Awesome.
terrified.
Great.
I can talk more about that after
Okay.
we
Yep.
watch. But are you guys ready? Should we dig in to the
Yep.
talk? Okay. And I will just say that I'm gonna put the link in. Oops. Wait. Of course, I just messed up. Hold on.
But you could
Hold
do
on.
anything now because you did a TED Talk, right? You're never going to get nervous in it anymore.
Yeah. There you
Maybe.
go. Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm just going to try and put this in the chat so that you can have the link. Apparently, it really matters to have a lot of views on these talks. So if you, even though we'll watch it together tonight, it would be wonderful if you could just throw it on sometime and play it so that there are individual unique views. This matters to TED. And so
Yep.
we were told that it helps to get a lot of views. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming to my watch party. Okay, so some of you, this is the first time you've seen the talk. Look at all the happy. Thank you for all the happy stuff. That's so sweet. Fiona. So, what are you? What? Oh, look at that! Oh, big ones. So, thank you for that. But my goal is that these would really be. This would really be a helpful talk. That it would be something that we could use to really advance everyone's understanding. Our teachers, our faculty that we're working with, the parents that we're working with, and our communities kind of at large, maybe faculty at universities, to get them just in the mind of how learning actually works in the brain. So you're going to share it with your TEP adult learners, Carissa. That's your plan. Do you want to unmic and tell us how you think you're going to do that, Carissa? Unmute.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I think it's really important because I'm finding that our young teachers, especially some of my interns, are really struggling with this idea of repetition and not knowing what to do when a student, they don't feel that student is making progress. And so I want them to see that because I can recount numerous stories of, well, this is how I chose to do something to cross the curriculum to get a child interested in a topic that they weren't. And, but they need to hear more stories, and they need to hear it oftentimes on something like TEDx, and then they'll believe it. So I'm excited to have that. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's funny. I was just talking with Megan. I think she's here somewhere yesterday about how she and I are saying the same thing, but she's the
Yes.
admin at her school. There you are. She's the
Right.
admin at her school. And so somebody else needs to say it because you can't always hear it from the same person. Even if the
That's
message
right.
is identical, it sounds differently when it comes from somebody else. So
I
thank
could
you,
say
Chris. I'm glad.
I
Go
could say
ahead.
it verbatim for what you say, and I could say Julia said, and it still is not. It doesn't hit.
Yeah, it needs to be other voices. So that's awesome. I hope this helps with that. And Chris, another thing I was speaking with a school about the other day was about kind of having a trust in the children so that we allow the children to choose their work. A lot of times we're kind of really getting in the way and saying, well, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, instead of really trying to find what their interests are, help them develop their interests, and guide them to their work based on those interests. So Tara, go ahead. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Julia. I remember reading in your pedagogy blog the little phrase that practice makes permanent rather than practice is perfect. And I really appreciated that because, as you mentioned, it could be, good practice or negative practice. But I've been finding parents not understanding the value of repetition. And one thing that I've been bringing to their attention, I had a father who was really resistant to the idea of his daughter practicing. He always wanted her challenged, and she really didn't practice. And it's interesting to me because in America, we have such reverence for like artists or particularly athletes. And I use the athletic example, and I'm saying Steph Curry is this wonderful basketball player that this parent loved, or Tom Brady up over there on the East Coast. And the reason they're at the top of their game is because of practice. And so we value it in like the Claude Monets and the Tom Bradys, but yet there's a disconnect when, as teachers, we try to talk about it. So I've always been really interested in how the society kind of, they just perceive it as rote rather than valuable. So I've been trying to talk to my families about the value, and all these people in society that we really love, they're really only where they are because of lots and lots and lots of practice.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's absolutely right. Renee, go ahead.
I think it's a great segue to parent education. I think that this little talk was so short that you could run an hour or 90-minute parent ed, listen to you, and then help them see what those things are about one size doesn't fit all, why we do it. We let the child choose their work because they enjoy that work. We have a plan once they move from there. The parents don't understand that. They still think it's my child's going to do anything they want, and the teacher might not move him into math because he doesn't like math or he doesn't like reading. And just to break those fallacies, I think it's a great intro, and it's short enough that it could really stimulate a parent ed night, I think.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about the short TEDx format, right?
Yeah,
Is that
because
you're
parents don't
forced to have it.
understand the
Right.
Montessori education program. And your talk gives us so many ways to segue off of that.
Yeah. Oh, I hope so. I hope so. And I like the idea of using it as a jumping off point. I've heard some other people are also sending it out like in their newsletter. They're sending out a link to it to give parents different ways to access it.
But you
But
still
I'm
need to
wondering,
talk about it with them. You need to say, what was she saying about repetition? It leads to executive functioning in the home, right? These homes are all over the place with kids' schedules, and how it can be a segue to say, this is what's your routine at home, why routine is so important. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And then they can handle the crazy world when they're 13, right?
yeah, yeah.
I love it.
And
It's got me all excited.
Gail, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that two of those things you talked about, one of them is the uniqueness of our brain. And I just met a woman who wrote a book called Unique Learner Solutions, Discover the Ability in Learning Disability. And her name is Suzanne Cresswell, and I'm hoping to work with her a little bit on that. But I also think that administrators and teachers need a lot more psychology, developmental psychology, and the study of the brain. And this is the way to go in putting that together with the repetition, like Renee was talking about. And my sister's a teacher in San Diego, and she says they try to rush the children through things too much. Let them have more time about a particular topic if they want to get onto that topic, which is, I think, the Montessori point of view. What do you think?
Yeah. And it's funny because that's the neuroscience, just the truth. And it's also true in Montessori. Like Dr. Montessori figured this out 100 years ago. She just 120. She just figured it out. She used her eyes to observe and figure out what was actually going on in the humans. But now, so I went back to Harvard to do my graduate studies in mind brain education because I didn't have that confidence, to feel like I really knew what I was doing, especially with my son was newly home from Kazakhstan and had lived in an orphanage. And I was like, I don't know if I know what to do all the time. And so I went back and I did my graduate work there specifically to get, Gail, just what you're talking about, that kind of more global view. And mind brain education includes psychology and education research and neuroscience research, cognitive neuroscience, health research, everything. And so it's really looking at the whole human, and that's what that my whole graduate program taught me, is you have to look at the whole human. And when we're interested in something, we just do it all the time, right? I mean, that's why the kids are playing Minecraft all the time, or they're doing whatever it is they're so, the Instagram or Facebooking, because they're interested in social interactions and social structures. And so it's not a problem that we have these interests. What's our challenge, I think, as educators and parents is and teacher educators, is to kind of link the interests that are already there with these fields of inquiry and fields of study that are kind of more relevant to other pursuits. Does that make sense, what I'm saying there?
Is it the teachers that should be doing that? I mean, I see the administration and all of the ways that we're locked into the testing interfering with what we want to give children so that they can give back to their nation, whoever they are inside. And I think if we don't, I don't know what we have to do to administrators so that they can understand this.
Well, Anjana, your hand's been raised. What do you think? Do you want to chime in on the administrator challenge? Can you unmute? Oh, you're still muted. There you go.
Yes, I read an article by, I'm not in Montessori, but I am in Montessori. I mean, that's my life, and it's been my life. So I do a lot of reading. And we hear about the prepared environment and the interest of the child, etc. But I read this article by Renilde Montessori, where she talks about how Dr. Montessori came up with the prepared environment and the materials, that she tested them out 1,000 times. It wasn't just, well, maybe they'll like this, maybe they will like this. And if we can drive and foster the faith in the teachers that if you are interested in something, you will repeat. And we don't have to repeat the same things.
I wonder if the administrators need that.
Everybody.
How do we? That's what I think Gail is pointing to.
Yes, I think everybody. I mean, we have to have the belief that this can happen, that there is such a thing as interest, and that will guide us to the next points.
I think that's a great point, Anjana. Adam, go ahead. Your hand is raised. Do you want to unmute? We can't hear you.
Keep unmuting. It keeps muting again.
There you go.
Yeah, I have three things. First one's more of a comment. I noticed that in your talk, you said that you have made your brain good at language, and your daughter has made her brain good at music, and your mom has made her brain good at shopping. And I'm the guy whose furniture assembling prowess has been impugned. So see how that works. The second thing, though, is I didn't bother you with this before because you had enough on your plate getting the talk ready. But now that it's in retrospect, what would you say is the number one thing that you wish you had had more time to include or expand upon that you didn't get to put in the talk? And let me ask you the third question, and then I'll stop. Interest is learning superpower is a really great message, and I found myself thinking as I was watching it that one of the way to expand upon that is to focus on how people can adjust their own internal compass to make themselves interested in things that they're not just already naturally interested in. Because in any education, there's things you're going to have to learn that you don't want to learn. They're boring, they're dry, or they're just not of interest to you, but they're necessary components for you to be competent at something. And so the ability it's almost like emotional control. The ability to cultivate your own interest in something is something that it seems like could be expanded upon a lot. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Oh, those are great questions, Adam. It's amazing that you still have questions. You must be so sick of hearing the talk by now, but thank you for that. And it's actually the thing that I wish I had more time to work in goes right back to the third question that you had about how do you develop internal interest. And it's about dynamic skill development and flow theory. So many of you have heard me talk before. And dynamic development of skill is something one of my professors at Harvard came up with, Kurt Fisher. And it's about how when we learn things, we learn and kind of we go up to here in this knowledge of it, and then it falls apart. And then we rebuild it and it gets higher, falls apart, rebuild it, falls apart, rebuild it, falls apart. So forgetting is a natural part of learning. And it's not like we just learn it and we get it. Sometimes that happens, but that's not typically the case. We usually have to slowly increase over time our ability, and we're constantly reconstructing our knowledge, reconstructing it. So it's normal for us to forget when we get off this talk tonight. You might be like, oh, we were talking about interest and repetition and how that prunes and does all this great stuff in the brain. And like tomorrow, I'll be like, oh, how was that talk last night? And they'd be like, oh, it was fun. It was about the brain. It was great, right? And so your learning kind of falls apart, but then you'll reconstruct it if you watch the talk again or you share the information somehow, get a scaffold. The thing about developing our interest, though, is really related to flow and development, a dynamic development of skill, because sometimes it's really hard to learn something and we feel like we just can't do it. Like when I had to learn statistics, it killed me. It was I got a B plus in that class and I'm like, a B plus, that should be a D, not a B. I did not feel confident. It was so hard for me to do, and it was hard for me to motivate myself to do it. And so to do that, I had to make it relevant. And I was working on, I was mentoring a school at a school with 8 different primary teachers. And I used my statistics to see, were there any differences in kind of the outcomes we were seeing in the students from class to class? Because I was a mentor and I was so opinionated at that time. I was really snotty. I did such an injustice to all my wonderful teachers. I was not well prepared. I'm so grateful that they still like me and have me back. I don't know why. And but I had my own ideas and I thought, well, that class is better than that class is better than that class. And when I did the statistics, I was wrong. They were all exactly the same. All of the results were the same. But finding that way to make that topic relevant to my life really made it easier for me to dig in. So finding a way to make it relevant mattered. Is that make sense to people? Do you have similar experiences? Anybody else hate statistics? I shouldn't say that. Statistics is a great field. It's still hard. So here we have Blanca had a comment. Repetition for some adults, they say that it is hard for children to get to repeat. Blanca, do you want to unmute? Are you still with us? Do you want to unmute and tell us what you were thinking?
Were you calling me? Calling out to me?
I was calling Blanca on Jana. If you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Pause. That's okay. And she's looking for her unmute button. I can see the focus.
Hello.
There you go. Hello. We've got you.
Hi. Hi. Hello. Well, I was just thinking of some of the teachers when you see the children that they are not repeating, and the teachers are or the adults are saying, well, they don't like it, or they're not interested, or they know it already. I even had that from an elementary teacher that was saying, like, they already know it, so she will start pushing things, new things. When I thought, they will need some time. They will need get at least a little bit of boringness with that material so they can grasp everything and try something different, explore in a different way the material. So I think we, the adults, sometimes have that rush and the need to perform for parents. And that doesn't help the children to really repeat because it's what we send to the children in as a vibration, right? I want you to learn this fast.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What a great point. What a great point. And we see it all the time because we're like, we got it, right? We had to do our teacher preparation, right? Or we already know how to do it. And so we're like, okay, I showed you, next. But it's not like that at all, right? It takes time, and each child's so different in their amount of time that they take. And I think there was another comment in here. Oh, Tammy, I've been really looking forward to get to this, Tammy. You're talking about how do we take this repetition and interest and apply it to our adult learning. So this gets back to what we were talking about earlier with our teacher education. So Tammy, tell me more about your thinking here.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about how in Montessori educator preparation programs, traditionally, it's more sit and get. You sit and you get. And that it's not aligning necessarily in those traditional formats for how we actually learn based on interest and repetition. Yes, there's repetition of the demonstration of a material, and we practice, 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 practice. We get better at it, and it becomes embodied. And yet then the child's before us. Now what do we do? So it's the contextualizing that Zara was just utilizing that word in our thread about how might we reframe how we're doing this. And there's programs out there that are shaking it up a little bit. And I'm thrilled about this body of work. And now what else might we be able to do to amplify or optimize adult learning? I know
Yeah,
that was
that's it. No, that's beautiful. And that's a real passion of mine because here I am speaking with all of you big kids tonight, right? And I find myself a lot speaking with big kids. And so it's you want to be effective in what you're doing, right? And so there's so many things to be involved with that. And I couldn't fit it all into the TED Talk. Adam, you know, I couldn't fit everything in that I wanted to cover. There was so much to cover. But in 10 minutes, how do you pick and choose? So I actually had a question for you guys. If you were asked to give a TED Talk, what would your TED Talk be? And you only have 10 minutes. What would it be? I really want to know what you're thinking. Would it be about education? Would it be about, parenting? Would it be about something a little more discreet, like specific, like I don't know, bedtime routines? You know, we had at Megan and Aaron's school, we did a parent night, and we had this one family who had like the perfect bedtime routine, and like they were just like the Pied Piper for all the other parents, you know, trying to get over there and figured out they should give a TED Talk on bedtime routines. You know, so here we go. Zora has an idea: the process of shifting the identity through parenting. Oh, Montessori matrescence. Zora, do you want to unmute and tell us what you're thinking about there? That's really interesting.
Hey, Julia.
Hey, Zora.
So I'm Zodia. My journey through Montessori was as a Montessori mama. And the matrescence right now is this new understanding of the process of becoming a mother, not necessarily overnight, you know, you just birth the baby and then here you go, you're a mama. And the whole process of matrescence is so in line with the sensitive periods of hormonal shifts, physiological shifts, the identity shifts, and forgetting everything we already knew, right? The cognitive understanding of development of the brain through the matrescence, specifically, you know, research in Columbia University by Ariel Othan. So yeah, I feel like the Montessori in my own personal preparation as a mother has helped me to give that context of what happens with me and give me the tools to approach my children with that understanding that I'm learning alongside them and I'm having my own process to go through. And as well, as we talk about for Montessori parenting and education with Montessori schools, I had Montessori daycare centers in Boston. And in my understanding of matrescence and Montessori gives them the context of how do we welcome parents and how do we connect with them as professionals through this, especially in 0 to 3, right? In infant toddler, how does that process unfolds together with parents and the children? So yeah.
Oh wow, I like that. I want to see your TED Talk.
You will.
You do it. I do.
You will.
So, and I love Caroline. I love compassion. Oh yes, that was almost my topic. I was right there with that. I think that's huge and awesome, and I want to hear your talk. And then partnerships and understanding the needs of partnering. Yeah, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. You should all do it in spoken language. I love that. So my other kind of thing that I was hoping we could just talk on, we've only got 5 minutes and I'm going to respect everybody's time, is just to think of ways that this particular TED Talk could be put into use so that you can actually share these 3 little nuggets. Like how can we, if we just start with those 3 foundational pieces, you know, no 2 brains are alike. Repetition makes things easier, and we repeat what interests us. Like, what would happen if how can we share just those 3 points out to really kind of bring it home in different ways? And maybe the TEDx talk is just one, you know, piece of that strategy. How would that benefit families, you know, or your faculty or your colleagues? Renee's got a million ideas, and so does Tammy. You guys are awesome. It's all the work in the Montessori classroom, not just the language and mathematics. Christine, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. It is. So the ideas that we've had so far are send out maybe those 3 points in your newsletter. Instead of just the TED Talk link in a newsletter, maybe the 3 points. And maybe you're hitting those 3 points in a lot of different avenues, right? Tell me about the best ways that you have for communicating with your families or your colleagues. Anissa, go ahead.
So we do lunch and learns, and we do about 4 to 6 a year. And we just did one today. Actually, the elementary teacher who's on here, Amy, she ran it. And we talked about some of these points. Actually, it would have been great to listen to it beforehand. But I was thinking that this is what I would do, and exactly like you just did for us, I would do on our lunch and learn, play this so that your TED Talk, and then we would discuss it. And I know the parents, they always do have questions about that working and repetition and memory. And, you know, some of us, like I said, some of our conversation today was really pertinent to this. So that's my plan. And I think that, and then we record them so that people who aren't able to log on can listen to it after.
That's a great idea. And the point I think you're really clear on getting at is that they need the practice. They need the repetition. So it's like you do this little 10-minute something, and then it's all about them and their content. You know, you're not the sage on the stage, right? I see a lot of heads nodding there. And Carol, you had a really interesting comment about that, Carol, earlier about, I think, sharing with your teacher education. Do you want to unmute and tell us what you were thinking, Carol? Because you're all the way from New Zealand. It's tomorrow morning for you, right?
Kia ora. I am. Yes, midday, just so after for me. And Julia, I'm here because I was guided to you from Louise Livingstone, who's one in London, who's couldn't be here because she's defending her PhD. It's connected to neuroscience. But I, as an AMI trainer, I'm talking a lot to students about interest, and I just think you really articulated it so clearly. And I think that was then following on my point about the art of engagement, that we really, as adults, need to think about how we engage little people in the environment. It no longer, in my humble experience, would you like to do this or this? No, thank you. Off. We have to be so much more creative, seductive, right? And we have to really feel it genuinely. We need to connect to their, their inner teacher, appeal to their interest. Does that answer that?
Oh, how beautifully put, Carol. Really.
Thank
wow.
you.
We're so lucky you're here. What a brilliant group of humans are here tonight. I just want to say, oh my gosh, this is like the master class. So we just have 1 minute more. Is there anything else burning that you want to ask or share, or anything that you'd like to have out there? Was I terrified? Yes. I am like not nervous when I talk, because I talk all the time and I feel like I'm just hanging out with my friends, right? Like it's not nerve-wracking. This was very different. This was very much about don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So my next TED Talk would be on positivity and compassion as a better, don't correct, represent, that's what I'm always saying. So anybody have anything else they'd like to share before we wrap up? Karen is cracking up. Karen, why are you cracking up at me down there?
Because you're the best. And it's awesome. I just love it. And I could see it. Yeah, you're adorable.
Thank you. I was hoping for adorable. That's awesome. Tara, you had one quick question before we go?
I was just going to say that I'm AMS trained, and I've been in the Montessori classroom for about 23 years. And every subsequent year, I love it more. I learn so much more. And I've always wanted to redo my 3 to 6 training with AMI. And everybody thinks it's crazy and a waste of time. And, the American view of why would you do that? You're not going to make more money. But this kind of reinforces, I think, the repetition of the training with all of my experience. Because when I first did it, it was so new that I got caught up on a lot of the nuances. And now I understand it more, and I kind of want to go back with a fresh mind, but with my background. So I feel like you've inspired me that as an adult we can also be into repetition no matter how old we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's really sweet of you. And I just want to say we've spoken a lot about Montessori tonight, but I 100% built the talk so that it would be Montessori, like on the DL. Like I did not want it to be in your face, because these are just truths about learning, and they're not just truths about Montessori learning. This is just how the brain and how the body work. And so the intention is that this is really applicable for learning in every situation, for adults, for children, for public, private, homeschool, every kind of every kind of learning that exists. This is relevant for. So I'm glad we have a great Montessori showing tonight, and I hope this helps, with the Montessori revolution, because Montessori is already doing, when it's done well, it's already doing what neuroscience tells us to do. And so I want everybody to know that, but I don't want anybody to think this is a Montessori, soapbox that I'm on. This is just a brain. This is a brain box. So,
Julia, there's things I'd like to talk to you about, but it will take up all the time. But I was interested in your husband's query, and we can't go on. But if I could have a talk with you one-to-one and tell you what I've been doing, I really would like to show that film to the people that I've been talking to lately, because I made a film and that really started something. It really did. And it was outside of the Montessori picture, but it was about teachers from all over. So and one
that's
question was,
lovely.
how do you assess the children's learning? And I wonder, what is the research on our brains about why we go in certain directions and not the others? And does that involve our family background?
I know just what to say.
That.
What you need, and what many of you all may really want to do, is to take that neuroscience of learning course at Harvard, through the Harvard Extension School. I know Tammy's husband did it. He was a student of mine years ago, and I help teach it often. I'm not this year because I'm a little overloaded, but hopefully when things settle down, they ask me every year, and I'm like, oh, take it. You don't have to be a Harvard student to take the course. Anybody can take classes at the Harvard Extension School, and it's online in the spring, and it's on campus in the summer. So you can choose the format that works better for you. Okay, so that is, if you want to go deeper, I would really suggest you do that. I feel like that should be obligatory for everyone in education. I really do. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining me here for my little watch party. Woohoo! So grateful to have you, and I hope you find it useful. Feel free to drop me a line if you want to continue the conversation somehow. It's great to have you here. Okay. Good night, everybody. Good night. Thank you for coming.